Canada's premier is making a plea in D.C. this Tuesday night. Their attempt to persuade the U.S. president tariffs will be terrible for both countries.
And I'll tell you who's sitting back and laughing is China.
What might change Trump's mind, and the prime minister's warning to the American vice president. Plus, what tariffs could mean if you're looking to buy a new vehicle. Ultimatum, the pressure Jordan and Egypt are facing as Trump threatens to withhold aid. Demanding justice for Jon Wells.
When he wasn't even armed.
The push for accountability in the death of an Indigenous man after an interaction with police. And vying to be top dog, a dose of cute canines stepping out at the Westminster Dog Show.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. He is only into his fourth week in office and the U.S. president keeps pushing the limits of executive power, punishing his allies, potentially destabilizing the Middle East. And today he signed an order directing government departments in the U.S. to cooperate with Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who has been given the authority to aggressively cut government agencies without any oversight. There is lots to get to. Let's start with those 25% tariffs Trump said yesterday he is going to impose on steel and aluminum imports to the U.S., including from Canada. Ontario's premier in Washington with other premiers was, like all Canadians, blindsided by it.
I was disappointed. President Trump said, hey, you have 30 days, let's work it out. And bingo, a couple days later, he wakes up and the rules changed, the goalposts changed.
And late today, another curveball. A White House official is quoted as saying the tariffs on steel and aluminum would be stacked onto other levies on Canadian goods that are still to come, resulting in a 50% tariff. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, begins our coverage tonight. David.
Well, Donna, Ontario Premier Doug Ford took a break from making his re-election pitch to voters in his province to making a pitch he hopes the U.S. president hears.
As the whole world is watching two closest friends about to wage an economic war against each other.
And Ford says that only benefits America's superpower rival, China.
A lot of the world is sitting back and laughing. And I'll tell you who's sitting back and laughing is China. China's sitting back and thinking we couldn't ask for a better plan than this.
The premier spent the day meeting with friendly U.S. audiences who also think Trump's tariffs are a bad idea.
Make no mistake that we are laser focused on the damage they'd inflict, or more accurately, self-inflict, on American consumers, farmers, and manufacturers.
Quebec Premier François Legault met with U.S. manufacturers, U.S. home builders, and U.S. aluminum companies. And Legault says those he met with do not believe the U.S. president can quickly or easily replace aluminum from Quebec with aluminum from the U.S.
Nobody believes that he can produce more aluminum. And I was with the big companies today. Nobody believes that he can make more aluminum in the United States. So he's not in the good position.
Nonetheless, trade experts say they believe more tariffs are inevitable and that while the premiers are doing what Canadians expect them to do, Trump is unlikely to reconsider his tariff strategy until Trump sees the economic harm they will cause in the U.S. Higher prices for food and housing, layoffs in metal-using manufacturing plants, and lousy stock market results.
This is a case where, unfortunately, President Trump has to touch the hot stove before he realizes how valuable and integrated this relationship is.
Now, on Wednesday, Federal Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc will join the premiers in Washington, and LeBlanc has a meeting with Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and LeBlanc will have some big news. Late this afternoon, Canada appointed that fentanyl czar. His name is Kevin Brosseau. He's a former deputy RCMP commissioner, and it will be Brosseau's job to coordinate actions in this country and in the U.S. to lock the border against fentanyl trafficking. Donna.
Okay, David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is still in Paris with other world leaders at a summit about artificial intelligence. But when he had a chance to meet the U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, on the sidelines, the talk was all about tariffs. Mackenzie Gray reports on the warning Trudeau delivered that hits Vance close to home.
Donna, Justin Trudeau finally acknowledged the economic elephant in the room.
Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum would be entirely unjustified. We will be working with the American administration over the coming weeks to highlight the negative impacts on Americans and Canadians of these unacceptable tariffs.
And the Prime Minister started that pitch just minutes later.
Why are you slapping tariffs?
Meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on the sidelines of an AI summit. A senior government official telling Global News, Trudeau underscored how tariffs would hurt Vance's home state of Ohio, a key part of the Canadian strategy.
Canadian steel and aluminum is used in a number of key American industries.
Emphasizing the Americans' reliance on steel and aluminum was key to getting an exemption from similar tariffs Trump put back on in 2018. But the president is promising this time that things are different.
It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions, and that's all countries, no matter where it comes from.
3 minutes after Trump said that, he contradicted himself, saying Australia was close to getting an exemption.
We'll continue to engage quite clearly constructively, but can I say this? It was a very constructive and warm discussion.
Thank you very much.
European countries also hoping for warm conversations with the U.S.
We're going to talk a lot about, I'm sure, some trade issues, some economic issues.
Those issues seem unlikely to dissipate, and FaceTime between the world leaders in Paris presenting an opportunity to build a coordinated response against the tariffs, one that Trump doesn't seem to care about.
Mr. President, if other countries retaliate...
I don't mind.
Justin Trudeau wouldn't say if Canada would apply reciprocal 25% tariffs, but it might not even be his decision, Donna. These tariffs are set to be applied after Justin Trudeau officially leaves as Prime Minister.
Mackenzie Gray in Paris. Thanks, Mac. Among those who will be hit hard when steel and aluminum tariffs come into effect in early March are the tens of thousands of workers in those industries. Karen Lieberman went to Hamilton, Ontario today and found that people are paying close attention and trying to prepare for what's coming. Karen.
Here in Steeltown, there's a sense of deja vu. In 2018, U.S. President Donald Trump slapped a 25% tariff on Canadian steel. Then Canada fought back. Now people in Hamilton, many of whom work at the local steel mills or know someone who does, say they hope the federal government does even more.
My son works at the steel company here, and there's already talk there about cutting back a little bit on their shifts. They're trying to not lay everybody off, but adjust a bit so everybody keeps working. But it's just going to affect so much around here. But we got to fight them.
I think we need to stick together, but we need politicians that need to stand up and stop fighting amongst themselves and say what's best for Canada, what's best for the people.
Ontario is home to 6 of the country's 13 steel plants, with Hamilton proudly hosting 2 of the largest steel makers and steel product manufacturers. We spoke with a recently retired 40-year veteran of one of the local steel companies.
It creates a lot of small businesses, people to live, families, houses. You're going to see a lot of people hurting, maybe lose their homes.
Hamilton's mayor says the tariffs could be devastating and lead to tens of thousands of job cuts.
There's also all kinds of services that are within our economy that service those industries, as well as the ripple effect of the good jobs. Let's face it, steelmaking is a place where people can earn a good living.
Bottom line, the concern here is that Trump's tariffs and the uncertainty they're causing won't only hurt the industry, they'll take a direct hit on Hamilton's workers and their families. Donna.
Karen Lieberman in Hamilton, Ontario tonight. Thanks.
If you look at Canada, Canada has a very big car industry. They stole it from us. They stole it because our people were asleep at the wheel.
Canada did not steal the auto industry from the U.S., as Trump claimed on Fox News last night. The auto sectors in Canada and the U.S. have been highly integrated since the 1960s. Trump is threatening to upend all of that. Ann Gaviola looks at what it could mean.
You might want to accelerate plans to lease or purchase a vehicle to get ahead of Trump's 25% tariff on steel and aluminum.
I suggest that you pull the trigger while there are cars, while the prices are not impacted.
The impact of the threatened tariff is a shock to the supply and price of new vehicles. Sometimes those vital pieces crisscross the border many times before a vehicle rolls off the assembly line.
Buy one now. At least the price is an honest price. As we go through a trade war, a whole bunch of that car's price will be inflated.
The average price of a new vehicle could climb by $400 to $1,000 according to BMO Capital Markets. Analysts tell Global News a tit-for-tat trade war could lead to carmakers shutting down.
It really just takes one supplier who is unwilling to spend 25% surtax to make 7% on a product. And then the math doesn't work. Nobody agreed to pay the surtax, and everybody agreed that we would shut down. So it would be immediate.
The shock ill-timed for supply chains, importers, and consumers nonetheless.
Does it make any, economic sense for the United States to do this, particularly on imports of steel and aluminum from Canada? Not really, in the sense that, we've set up a pretty, functional, efficient, and resilient kind of value chain between the countries.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
Something else happened at the White House today. Elon Musk was there with one of his sons while the president signed an executive order directing government departments to do what Musk demands as Musk sweeps through government agencies, cutting what Trump claims without any evidence is billions of dollars of waste and corruption. Jackson Prosco is with me from Washington. Jackson, help us understand what happened in the Oval Office today.
Yeah, Donna, this executive order essentially compels federal government agencies to cooperate with Elon Musk's Doge department. In the last few weeks, we've seen just how deep and just how fast both Musk and Doge have gone into U.S. federal systems. They've disrupted payments, they've shut down agencies, and they've offered buyouts to the majority of the federal workforce. Today's order is a signal that President Trump approves of all this and its disruptive effects, even though the courts have blocked or temporarily paused many of the aspects of both what Trump and Musk are doing here. Now, Trump insisted he does have a mandate for change, even as the legality of what he's doing is being questioned, but he says he will respect court decisions about it.
By the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books.
Jackson, Trump made lots of claims without any evidence, but how did Musk defend the authority he's been given without any oversight and the access he and his team have been given to all his sensitive data?
Yeah, Donna, this was really the first time that Elon Musk has faced these types of questions. And of course, there's a tremendous amount of concerns about conflict of interest because of the billions of dollars he receives. Now, Musk dismissed any concerns about conflict, even though he has, for example, been tasked with investigating the Pentagon, which gives him billions of dollars in contracts directly.
Are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
If you want just a little more proof of how much President Trump approves of all this, he was asked directly about Musk's actions, and he insisted there are checks in place and that he personally double checks what Musk is doing every single day. Donna?
Jackson, thanks. Saskatchewan RCMP have identified the 4 people killed on Carry the Kettle Nakota First Nation last week. They range in age from 34 to 47. 2 are said to be from Carry the Kettle, about 85 kilometers east of Regina. The other 2 are from nearby communities. No arrests have been made in the deaths, which police say could have been targeted. Trump threatens to cut aid to Egypt and Jordan. Coming up, the potential repercussions if he follows through. The American president welcomed Jordan's king to the White House today. Yesterday, Donald Trump threatened to cut off U.S. aid to both Jordan and Egypt unless they take in hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza. Trump wants them out of Gaza permanently so he can develop it. No one in the region, except some in Israel, support that idea, which is why Trump is ratcheting up the pressure, threatening to withhold the more than $3 billion in military and economic aid the U.S. sends to Jordan and Egypt each year. Both countries have peace treaties with Israel, and Trump's threat risks destabilizing the whole region. Redmond Shannon explains.
If there was tension in this White House meeting, the 2 leaders did a good job of hiding it.
We've got some very interesting discussions ahead.
Very good, very good.
Jordan's King Abdullah, a key Middle East ally of the US, arriving in Washington just a day after Donald Trump threatened to pull the plug on the significant aid it sends to Jordan and Egypt. That is, unless those countries take the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians Trump wants to see leave Gaza permanently.
I don't have to threaten with money. We contribute a lot of money to Jordan and to Egypt, by the way, a lot, to both. And I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Jordan. I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Egypt. We may have someplace else.
Abdullah avoided anything definitive in front of Trump.
I believe that the president is looking forward to getting a group of us Arabs here to discuss the overall plan.
But after the meeting, he reiterated Jordan and Egypt will not and should not resettle Gazans. Removing financial support from two nations who have served as regional peace brokers could have unintended consequences, according to this former Canadian ambassador to Jordan.
Cutting off that amount of aid to Egypt and Jordan is going to be a level of disruption that I think hurts American interests too.
Trump repeated his threat to Hamas Tuesday too, saying that all bets are off unless all Israeli hostages are released Saturday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said the ceasefire will end unless hostages are set free this weekend, although he didn't specify how many hostages. Donna?
Redmond in London, thank you. Jon Wells' family and friends want justice. Ahead, their calls for a national inquiry into systemic racism in policing. The family of a man from the Blood Tribe First Nation says their wait for justice has been agonizing. In September of last year, Jon Wells died after a short, violent interaction with Calgary police. A preliminary investigation by Alberta's police watchdog suggested officers used excessive force. Nearly 5 months later, no charges have been laid. Heather Yourex-West went to the community of Standoff in southern Alberta to speak with Jon Wells' family about the answers they're seeking.
And that was made for my son by my niece, Tia.
It's an intricately beaded medallion rooted in tradition. Edith Wells relies on it for strength as she takes on a mission she never expected.
I'm trying to gather my words together and to be strong for my son, because it's for him, not about me. I'm trying to get justice done for him.
Jon Wells, Edith's second oldest boy, died on the floor of this Calgary hotel on September 17, 2024. Police responded to a call from hotel staff that an unwanted person was in the lobby. Wells was unarmed when he was tackled, beaten and tased and restrained by police and sedated by emergency medical services.
He wasn't even armed with anything. He wasn't even posing no threat. In fact, raising his hands and saying, "I don't want to die."
The hard-to-hear details released to the public by Alberta's police watchdog on the day he was laid to rest.
We had just buried him, and then to get the news, it was like it's happening all over again, you know, like no peace.
The family's grief compounded with the knowledge Wells was one of 9 Indigenous people to die last summer following interactions with police. It's why Edith made the decision in December to travel to Ottawa to advocate directly to the Prime Minister for change. The emotional moment went viral, viewed online millions of times.
He was only 42 when they killed him. That was racism, what they did to him. That is not okay.
The family is joining with the Assembly of First Nations in a call for a national inquiry into systemic racism in policing. But they want the officers involved in Jon's death to be held accountable too, though they've been told the investigation may not be completed for another year. How hard is it to be in this period while you're just waiting?
I don't like it. It's hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
Still, this grieving mother is steadfast in her resolve, determined to keep going until, she says, there is justice. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Standoff, Alberta.
Best on Best hockey is back next. What to expect from the Four Nations face-off in Montreal. It's been a long time since the NHL's best players have been able to suit up for their country. That changes this week with the Four Nations face-off. Canada, the U.S., Sweden and Finland are playing. Mike Armstrong spoke with some of the game's biggest names about their excitement for the tournament.
It's hard not to lean into the hyperbole, but seeing Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid step onto the ice as teammates is special. It may seem sacrilegious to say it's like Gretzky and Lemieux, but it is. They are both in the top 10 all-time, arguably the top 5. Even teammates know they've got a great seat for hockey history.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I mean, even on the power play, I kind of find myself just watching at times, just in awe of like kind of how they work the puck around.
Hockey fans have for about a decade basically been cheated. The last true best-on-best tournament was the Olympics in 2014. McDavid hasn't had the chance to wear the maple leaf as a pro or team up with Crosby.
It's been something that's been talked about for a while and hasn't happened. So I think similar to just playing for Team Canada, that's partly what you think about is the guys you get to play with.
Now the Four Nations face-off kicks off Wednesday night. Canada plays Sweden. It's a short tournament where NHL teammates now find themselves competing against each other. Saturday's game will be Leaf versus Leaf. Austin Matthews with the U.S. against Mitch Marner with Canada.
We all understand we're not on the same team right now. We're competitive. There's a lot of pride playing for your country, so it doesn't really matter who you're going up against.
I don't like playing against guys that I know and have relationships with because it's hard to play harder on them. But, I mean, when you put that jersey on for Canada, there are no friends on the ice.
Now, going in, the U.S. is the favorite to win, mostly because they have a significant advantage in goal. Any of their 3 netminders would be the starter for Canada. But you only get to play one goalie at a time, and it's impossible to overlook Canada's firepower. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
That is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. There is another big competition underway that is all paws and tails and glossy coats. It's the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show in New York.
78 entries from Canada.
Lots of Canadian canines are part of it. Canada is one of 13 countries with dogs in this competition. One of them is Kenny. He's an almost 6-year-old Affin Pinscher. And there is Daisy. Look at her, a 3-year-old miniature poodle. They're among the more than 2,000 dogs in the running to be crowned top dog. Go Canada. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.